Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of California wildfires. We've got some really interesting source material for you guys today. It's an excerpt from a podcast script that focuses on California fires. And by the end of this deep dive, hopefully you'll be able to move beyond just the headlines and really understand this whole situation.
Yeah, we're going to go beyond just the surface level and really get into all the causes, all the effects of this, and what we can do to potentially solve this problem. You might be surprised what we find.
Yeah. One of the first things that just blew me away when I was reading the script is that something like 80% of wildfires are caused by humans.
Whoa.
That's a crazy number, 80%. So it's not, it's not just like Mother Nature doing this. It's really us.
Yeah. It really makes you think about our role in all of this.
Yeah, for sure. So to get started, let's talk about a little bit of a background here. California's wildfire history is long and complicated, but it's definitely escalated in recent years. The script talks about the Camp Creek fire of 2023. Oh, yeah.
As like a prime example of this escalation.
That was devastating. Thousands of acres burned. Tens of thousands of people had to evacuate.
Yeah. It's just hard to even imagine the scale of destruction. And it's not just the immediate damage, right?
Right.
We're talking about billions of dollars annually. Like, imagine a small country's entire GDP wiped out every year because of these fires.
Yeah, and that's just the economic cost. There's so much damage environmentally, too, with all the carbon dioxide being released. We'll get into the environmental impact a little bit later, but it's a huge part of this whole story.
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen the devastation, but what's causing these infernos? The script points to four main causes. And it's a mix of both natural and, as we said, human-made. It's like a perfect storm brewing.
Yeah, it really is. The first one is one that's getting harder and harder to ignore, and that's climate change.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the 2022 heat waves in California as a prime example of this, with the rising temperatures and the prolonged droughts. It creates this like tinderbox. So it's like climate change is setting the stage for these mega fires.
Exactly. It just bakes the moisture out of all the vegetation and makes it so easy to start a fire.
Wow. And then, of course, you've got that 80% that we were talking about, the human element that's causing these fires. Now, human-caused fires can be both accidental and intentional, but can you give us some examples from the source?
Yeah, for sure. On the accidental side, you've got campfires that weren't put out all the way, or cigarettes that are thrown out, even like sparks from machinery can cause this. And then there's something as simple as a car's catalytic converter.
Wow.
If it's really hot, it can ignite dry grass and set off a huge fire.
It's kind of scary how easy it is for these things to get started. What about intentional fires? The script talks about a particularly shocking example.
Yeah, the 2020 El Dorado fire was started by a gender reveal party.
No way.
Yeah, a pyrotechnic device they were using ignited the dry grass, and it spread out of control.
Wow, I never would thought that a gender reveal party could start a wildfire. That's crazy.
It really is. And it highlights the importance of just being aware of your surroundings and what you're doing, especially when you're in a place that's prone to fire.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got climate change making things really dry. Humans are providing the spark, but there's some other factors too, right?
Right.
The script also talks about urban expansion as playing a role. What does that mean?
Well, as more and more people are moving into these areas that border wilderness, the risk of wildfires impacting homes and people is going way up. So we're building in areas that are naturally prone to fire, and that's just making it more dangerous.
Yeah, we're kind of building ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have natural causes, right? Even though humans start most of these fires, nature still has a role.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lightning strikes, especially when things are dry, can start massive fires.
Yeah, of course.
And then there's the Santa Ana winds. Those hot, dry winds can turn a small fire into something huge really quickly. So welcome back to the deep dive. We've talked about what causes these California wildfires, but now let's think about the ripple effects. These fires impact a lot more than just California.
Yeah, we've been setting the stage, figuring out what causes this, but now I've got to ask, so what? What does all this mean for you, the listener? Even if you don't live in California, how does this affect you?
Right. We're going to connect the dots and show you how all this fits into a much bigger picture.
Okay, let's start with the environment. We talked about it a little earlier. We think about forests. We think, oh, they're beautiful. But they play a huge role in keeping our planet healthy.
Oh, absolutely. Think of California's forests like these giant sponges. They soak up all the carbon dioxide that's heating up the planet. They absorb tons of CO2 from the air.
So when these forests burn, All that carbon goes back into the atmosphere. That sounds bad.
It is. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. The more forests burn, the more carbon is released, which makes climate change worse, which leads to more fires. It's this crazy cycle.
And it's not just the carbon we should be worried about, right?
No, not at all.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of nasty stuff released into the air when there's a wildfire, like particulate matter, ozone, even toxic chemicals, and all that pollution can travel for miles and miles.
So even if you're far away from California, you could still be breathing in smoke from these fires. That's scary.
Yeah, it shows how connected everything is on our planet. What happens in one place affects everyone.
So we've got the environmental impacts, carbon, air pollution, but what about our health? I know wildfire smoke is bad for you, but how bad is it, really?
It's really bad. Wildfire smoke is full of these tiny particles, gases, and chemicals that can get deep into your lungs. It can cause all sorts of breathing problems, asthma attacks, bronchitis, even heart problems.
So even when the fire's out, the danger isn't really over.
Nope, not at all. The smoke can stick around long after the fire's gone. And like we said before, kids, older folks, and people with breathing problems are at a higher risk.
It's like this invisible threat that hangs around. And then there's the mental and emotional toll too, right? I mean, going through a wildfire, the fear of losing your home, that's got to be tough.
Oh, absolutely. The emotional impact of these wildfires is huge. People are dealing with stress, anxiety, even PTSD. It can take years to recover.
And we can't forget the social and economic impacts. We've already talked about the billions of dollars in damage, but it goes beyond that.
It does. Businesses get destroyed, people lose their jobs, and rebuilding is so expensive. And sadly, low-income communities and communities of color often get hit the hardest.
That's a really important point. It's not just about the damage to buildings, it's about the social and economic inequalities that get worse because of these disasters.
Exactly. These communities often don't have the resources to prepare for or recover from wildfires. It really shows how climate change and environmental disasters don't affect everyone equally.
Okay, so we've talked about the causes and the consequences. This is clearly a big problem with a lot of different sides to it. But the question everyone's probably thinking is, what can we do about it? Is there any hope? Can we make these California wildfires less frequent and less destructive?
There is hope, but it requires a big change in how we think about wildfires. We need to move from just reacting to them to actually preventing them, from fighting fires to managing the landscape so that fires are less likely to happen in the first place.
Okay, I like that. How do we do that? What does a more preventative approach look like?
Well, for starters, we need to rethink our relationship with fire. It's not just this destructive force. It's a natural part of healthy ecosystems.
That's a pretty different way of looking at things.
It is, but it's important if we want to find solutions that work in the long run. We can learn a lot from indigenous communities who have been managing fire for centuries. They use controlled burns to clear out underbrush and create healthier forests that are more resilient to wildfires.
So it's about working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. We need to do things like thinning out dense forests, removing dead trees, and creating fuel breaks. This makes it harder for wildfires to spread.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it's important work. What about technology? Can technology help us manage these fires?
Absolutely. We're seeing amazing advancements in how we detect and fight fires. We're also getting better at predicting how fires will behave. Satellites, drones, computer modeling these are giving us new tools to understand and respond to wildfires.
Yeah, it seems like we're entering a whole new era of wildfire management, like we're combining technology with this ancient wisdom.
It really is amazing. And it's not just about gadgets and old ways of doing things. We also need better policies and more money for research. But maybe the most important thing is a change in how we think about this whole problem.
When you say a change in how we think, what do you mean?
We need to stop thinking that we can only react to wildfires. Like, we see a fire, then we put it out. We got to be more proactive. We got to focus on preventing fires, being prepared, and building communities that can bounce back.
So it's kind of like wildfires are going to happen in California. That's just a fact. So we need to design our communities and our lives to be ready for that. What would that actually look like?
Well, think about communities where the houses are built with fire-resistant materials, where there's space around neighborhoods to stop fires from spreading, and where we have systems that warn people early so they can evacuate.
So we're talking about a culture of preparedness, where everyone's working together to stay safe. That sounds huge, but really important.
It is. And remember, wildfires aren't just a California problem. They're happening all over the world. It's a global issue. So the solutions we come up with here can be used in other places too.
Okay, let's talk about what individuals can do to protect themselves and their families. Especially if they live in an area where wildfires are a risk. What are some essential things they can do?
First things first, have an evacuation plan. You got to know where to go, what to take, and make sure everyone in your family knows what to do. Pack a go bag with things like medicines, important papers, some clothes. Be ready.
So it's about being prepared, not panicking when something happens.
Exactly. And don't wait until there's a fire to figure this stuff out. Do it now. Learn the evacuation routes, sign up for alerts, and practice your plan with your family.
Okay, what about staying informed? How can people keep up with what's going on with wildfires?
Technology is super helpful for that. Download apps like CAL FIRE to get alerts. Watch the news, check the weather, and stay connected with your community.
So basically, know what's happening around you, stay in the loop.
Yep, and remember, your home is your first line of defense. Create a defensible space around your house. Clear away dry brush, trim trees, and use plants that are fire resistant. Clean your gutters and don't keep flammable stuff near your house. Those little things make a difference.
Thinking back to that 80% of wildfires being caused by humans, it really makes you realize that we each have a responsibility to prevent fires.
It's so true. We need to be careful, especially during fire season. Putting out campfires completely, being careful with machinery, even avoiding things that could cause a spark on a dry day. Those things can save lives and property.
So it's not just about being prepared for a fire, it's about making sure fires don't start in the first place.
Exactly. And beyond what individuals can do, we need to support policies that help manage forests, invest in renewable energy, and fight climate change. Those are the big solutions that will help us in the long run.
It's about recognizing that this isn't just a local problem, it's a global one. Okay, we've covered a lot today. We talked about the causes, the consequences, and what we can do about these California wildfires. What are some key things you want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I hope they have a better understanding of what causes these fires and how they affect everyone, not just people in California. But most importantly, I hope they feel like they can actually do something about it, that they can be part of the solution.
It's about taking action, being informed, and working together to create a safer future. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into California wildfires.
It's been great talking to you all. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Okay, ready to dive into some persuasive writing?
I am.
We're going deep with a podcast script for English language learners.
Sounds interesting.
But even if you're already a pretty good writer, there's always something new to learn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think this one's got some hidden gems for all of us.
Well, what I find interesting is how this script, it really just lays out how to persuade anybody, no matter what their, language level is.
Yeah.
We're talking about influence.
Right.
Like the structure, the clarity, the emotional connection.
Yeah.
It works when you're writing a business proposal or even just trying to get your friend to try a new restaurant.
Exactly. It's not just for politicians or marketers or whatever. Persuasive writing, think about it.
Yeah.
Like that last email you wrote where you really needed to get your point across.
Oh, yeah.
Or a cover letter for a job.
Right.
You think a little persuasive magic could have helped?
Oh, I'm sure it could have.
I think so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what? The source material uses this great example.
Okay.
Trying to convince your boss to implement flexible working hours.
No.
It's not just writing some sentences.
Right.
You have to make an argument. Highlight the benefits for the company.
Yeah.
And for the employees too.
Right. You got to show them how it's a win-win.
Exactly. A win-win. Hard to resist.
Okay, I'm sold. Persuasion is power. It is.
But how do we actually do it?
Right.
Well, this source material breaks down a persuasive piece into three parts. The introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion.
Okay.
It sounds pretty basic.
Yeah.
But there's a reason this structure has worked forever.
I know, right? It's not just some random formula.
Right.
This goes all the way back to classical rhetoric.
Oh.
The art of persuasion, it's been around for centuries.
Wow.
What's fascinating is that it still applies today.
So cool.
You follow this structure, and it's like a roadmap for your reader.
It guides them through your argument in a clear and logical way.
I love that. Okay, so guiding the reader. So this source material, It gives some pretty good advice about writing a really strong introduction.
Okay.
It all starts with a hook,
Okay, yeah.
something to grab your reader's attention, make them want to keep reading.
Got it.
They give this example of starting with a statistic about remote work and how it's increased productivity.
Oh, I like that.
It's all about getting their attention right away.
For sure. Then you follow up with a thesis statement.
Okay.
Basically, what's your main point?
Right.
You can say something like, implementing flexible work hours will boost employee morale and increase productivity.
Boom. Okay, you got me. I'm hooked.
Perfect.
But what about the body paragraphs?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you really get into it.
This is where the Peel method comes in.
Peel. Okay, tell me more.
Each paragraph focuses on one single point.
Okay.
And it provides evidence, like building a case.
Brick by brick.
Exactly.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say flexible work hours, right?
Yeah.
One paragraph could be about how it impacts productivity.
Okay.
You start with a point. Flexible work arrangements lead to increased productivity.
Got it.
Then you give evidence, like studies, companies that have tried it, show it actually works,
So you're not just saying it, you're proving it.
right? Then goes the explanation.
Okay.
You say, maybe employees can work during their peak hours,
Makes sense.
leading to better focus,
Right. So it's not just the what, but the why.
Exactly.
Okay. And what about the L and Peel?
The L is for link.
Okay.
You wrap up the paragraph
Yeah.
and link it back to your thesis, your argument for flexible work.
Okay. So you're saying
Yeah.
by letting employees work when and where they're most productive,
Yes.
it's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly.
This Peel method is genius.
It is pretty clever.
A recipe for a killer paragraph.
I know, right?
Point, evidence, explanation, link.
You got it.
Okay, but before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
what about the conclusion? How do we wrap this whole thing up?
Right. The conclusion is your grand finale.
Okay.
It's your last chance to leave an impression.
Right.
The source material says, summarize your key arguments.
Okay.
Restate your thesis clearly.
Got it. So we're bringing it all back to that main argument.
Exactly. And you can get creative here.
Okay.
The source material suggests ending with a call to action.
Oh, like telling them what to do next?
Yeah, like in our flexible work hours example, you could suggest a trial period
Oh, that's good.
or tell them to learn more on a website or something.
So it's more than just reading. It's like, okay, what's next?
Exactly. Give them something to do.
Okay. So we covered the basic structure,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling there's a lot more to this.
Oh, there is.
What's next on our deep dive agenda?
Okay, now let's talk about the glue that holds a persuasive argument together.
Oh, intrigue me.
Connectors and transition phrases.
Okay.
Little words and phrases that make a huge difference.
Connectors, huh?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like my writing is kind of choppy.
Okay.
Like I have all these good ideas, but
Right,
they're
yeah.
not really flowing together.
Yeah, that's where connectors come in.
Okay.
They're like bridges between your ideas, transitions that guide your reader from one point to the next.
Smooth it all out.
Exactly. And what's interesting?
Right.
These tiny little words, they can have a huge impact.
Really?
Oh, yeah. On how clear and persuasive your writing is.
So it's not just what you say,
Right.
but how you connect it all together.
You got it.
The source material actually breaks these connectors down into different categories.
Yeah.
Adding information, contrasting ideas, cause and effect.
Right. It's like a whole toolbox
It is, right.
for writing.
For persuasive writing.
Yeah. Just like any tool,
Yeah.
you got to know how to use them the right way.
Right. Okay, so let's start with adding information.
Okay. So words like furthermore, in addition, moreover,
Okay.
those are great when you want to build on a previous point. You're giving more support for your argument.
Okay.
Like, let's say you're writing about exercise.
Okay.
You could say, regular exercise improves cardiovascular health. Moreover, it strengthens muscles and bones.
Okay, so you're building up a case.
Exactly. Each point adds to the one before it.
Got it. What about contrasting ideas?
Oh, yeah, those can be tough.
They are.
But connectors, like however, on the other hand, nevertheless,
Okay.
those can help you be more balanced,
Right.
more nuanced.
So it's not just one-sided.
Right. Like, let's say you're arguing that technology makes life easier.
Yeah, okay.
You could say, however, it's important to be mindful of technology addiction and privacy concerns.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. You're acknowledging the other side.
Yeah,
It makes your argument stronger.
because you're not ignoring the potential problems.
Exactly. You're addressing them head on.
Okay, what about cause and effect?
Oh, that's a good one.
I struggle with that sometimes.
Well, connectors, as a result, therefore, consequently.
Okay.
Those can really help,
Okay.
showing that one thing leads to another.
Right.
For example, climate change. You could say greenhouse gas emissions have increased dramatically. As a result, global temperatures are rising.
Wow. You just made that so clear.
See, connectors are powerful.
They are. I'm starting to see how they can really
Yeah.
make a difference in writing.
For sure.
Okay. Let's move on to something else important
Okay.
that the source material talks about. Tone and formality.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay. Tell me more.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
Tone and formality can completely change how your message is received.
I get that.
Like you wouldn't talk to your friend the same way
Right.
as you would to your boss.
Definitely not.
Right, you'd get fired.
Exactly. It's all about knowing your audience
Yeah.
and the context.
The source material talks about two main types of tone,
Okay.
professional and passionate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What's the difference?
Professional is more objective, straightforward,
Got it.
focuses on facts and logic.
Okay.
Passionate, well, it's more emotional.
Uh-huh.
You let your energy show.
So when would you use one over the other?
It depends.
Okay.
What are you trying to do? Who are you talking to?
Right. Right.
If you're giving a presentation at a conference, you probably want to be professional.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're writing a blog post about something you're passionate about,
Right.
let that passion shine through.
So match your tone to the situation.
Exactly.
Now, what about formality?
Okay, so the source material talks about formal and semi-formal writing.
Okay. I'm not sure I know the difference.
Formal is like super professional.
Right.
Academic papers, official documents, that kind of thing.
Got it.
More complex sentences, bigger words, no contractions.
Okay.
Semi-formal is more relaxed, like an email or a blog post.
More conversational?
Exactly.
So it's like formal is wearing a suit
Yeah.
and semi-formal is business casual.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, good.
You got it.
So again, it's all about knowing your audience and the situation.
Right, just for the occasion.
I'm realizing that persuasive writing is more than just
Yeah,
putting some sentences together.
it is. There's a lot to it.
It is, but
Yeah.
even with all this knowledge,
Right.
I still make mistakes sometimes.
We all do.
Are there any common ones we should be aware of?
Definitely. The source material has a whole list.
Okay, like a cheat sheet?
Yeah. Common mistakes and how to fix them.
Okay, give me the top one.
Overloaded sentences.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to cram too much into one sentence.
I do that all the time.
It happens.
It gets all confusing.
It does.
It's like a jumbled mess.
The solution. Break it down.
Oh, okay. Simpler.
Shorter sentences.
Right, right. Keep it clear.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
What else? Using big words when you don't need to.
Oh, trying to sound smart.
Yeah. But it usually backfires.
Right.
Just use clear, simple language.
So people actually understand what you're saying.
Exactly. Don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, what's next?
Grammar and punctuation.
Ugh, I hate grammar.
It can be tricky.
But it's important.
It is. Nothing looks more unprofessional.
Yeah, like you didn't even try.
Exactly.
Right.
But grammar's hard.
That's why you proofread
Right.
and use tools like Grammarly.
Oh, yeah. Technology to the rescue.
Right. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, what's the last mistake on the list?
This one's important.
Okay.
Not backing up your claims.
Oh, yeah.
You can say whatever you want,
Right.
but if you don't have evidence,
Right. It means nothing.
exactly, it's just empty words.
So you got to prove it.
Use statistics, studies, examples.
Real life stuff.
Exactly. The stronger your evidence, the stronger your argument.
Okay, wow. This has been like a crash course
I know, right?
in persuasive writing.
It has.
I feel like I learned a lot,
Good.
but I know there's always more to learn.
Oh, absolutely. The key is to keep practicing.
Exactly. The more you write, the better you'll get.
I'm feeling inspired.
That's great.
Before we wrap up, though,
Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
If you could write the most persuasive message in the world, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And who would you send it to?
That's tough. If I could write the most persuasive message,
Yeah.
it would be about empathy and understanding,
Okay.
between people from different backgrounds and cultures. I'd send it to everyone,
Wow.
everywhere.
That's beautiful.
I think it could help bridge divides,
Yeah.
make the world a little more peaceful.
A little more compassionate.
Exactly.
It reminds us that persuasive writing,
Yeah.
it's not just about getting what we want.
No, it's not.
It's about making a difference
It can be.
in the world.
It can.
Okay, so much to think about.
I know.
We're almost out of time for today.
Okay.
It's amazing how persuasive writing can be used for all sorts of things.
It really is.
Selling products, promoting social change.
Right.
It's a powerful tool.
Powerful, and like any tool,
Yeah,
it can be used for good or bad.
that's true.
We have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, the ethical side of it.
Exactly. Just because we can persuade someone
Right.
doesn't mean we should.
It's about using that power responsibly.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important
Yeah.
to understand your audience and your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you actually trying to do?
Right, what's the goal?
Are you informing, educating, inspiring, or just entertaining?
So many possibilities.
Once you know your purpose,
Yeah.
you can figure out the best way to achieve it.
I'm realizing persuasive writing is more than just tricks and techniques.
It is.
It's about connecting with your audience.
Yeah.
Understanding them.
Understanding their needs, what motivates them.
Yeah, and presenting your ideas in a way that speaks to them.
Exactly. You want your writing to resonate with them.
It's about building trust.
Right. Building a connection.
And that takes time.
It does. It's not something that happens overnight.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm excited to try out some of these things in my own writing.
You should. And remember, the best way to get better
Yeah.
is to practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Write every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Okay.
Try different techniques, play around with connectors.
Experiment.
Exactly. See what works for you.
Okay. Any last words of wisdom?
Yes. Find your voice.
Okay.
Be authentic. Write with passion.
Because
The most persuasive writing
Yeah.
comes from the heart.
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive
It does.
into persuasive writing.
Time flies.
I hope everyone listening
Me too.
learned a lot
It was fun.
and had some fun along the way.
Yes.
Remember, the power of persuasion is
Yeah.
in your hands.
Use it wisely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You guys wanted to learn all about negotiation and persuasion, so that's what we're doing today. But get this, our source material. It's a script for teaching English as a second language.
Yeah, pretty unexpected, right?
I know, but honestly, I'm thinking this different angle could make things really interesting. Maybe even give us a fresh take on like classic techniques and stuff.
Totally. And you know what else is cool about this script? They make a clear distinction between negotiation and persuasion right off the bat, which I think a lot of people kind of use interchangeably.
Oh, for sure. Like I always thought they were basically the same thing.
Well, here they're saying negotiation is all about finding an agreement, whereas persuasion, that's more about influencing someone to think or do something specific.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So it's less about compromise and more about getting them to come around to your side.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you're trying to buy a car, right? Negotiation's the back and forth on price, but persuasion is convincing the seller that your offer is the best one, even if it's not the highest.
Okay, so knowing which one you're dealing with is key. Gotcha. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What kind of strategies does this script recommend?
One big one is preparation, like really doing your homework. They even talk about researching the other person's past negotiations or looking for weaknesses in their usual arguments.
So it's like knowing your opponent in a chess match.
Exactly. But even if you don't know much about the person, you can still prepare. This script suggests figuring out their needs and goals. Like, what are they really trying to achieve?
That's smart, because once you know what they want, you can figure out how to give it to them in a way that also works for you, right?
Exactly. It's about finding that win-win.
Love it. Okay, this script also mentioned something called anchoring. What's that all about?
Ah, yeah. Anchoring. That's a classic. It's basically setting a high starting point in the negotiation. Like, you ask for more than you actually expect to get.
Ooh, sneaky. But why?
It's all about setting the frame, right? Makes any counteroffers seem more reasonable by comparison.
So, like, if I'm selling something, I start with a price that's a bit high, knowing it'll probably come down a little.
Exactly. And they even gave this example about a salary negotiation. You could say something like, based on my research, I was thinking more along the lines of $80,000.
Bold. But what if they just, laugh you out of the room?
Well, that's why you got to find that sweet spot. Be ambitious but believable. Have a solid reason for that initial number you throw out.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't want to seem delusional. Okay, what else? Any other cool tactics in this script?
You know what they emphasize that I find interesting? The power of silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
Like, after you make an offer, just be quiet. Let the other person respond first.
Yes, that can make people uncomfortable. And then maybe they blurt out something.
That's the idea. This script connects it to something called loss aversion. People hate losing more than they like winning, you know? So silence kind of creates that potential for loss.
Oh, I get it. So if I don't say anything, they're worried I'm going to walk away.
Exactly. Subtle but effective.
Wow, I like it. This script even gives like an actual dialogue example.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
It's about a job interview, and you say, based on my research, I believe a salary of $70,000 is fair for this role. And they're like, that's higher than we were thinking. And then you just pause.
Ooh, I love it. That silence speaks volumes.
Right. So much better than immediately lowering your ask. Okay, so we've got preparation, anchoring, and the silent treatment. What else did this script have to say about negotiation?
Oh, they also talk about knowing when to walk away.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, but sometimes it's the best move.
Like if they're just not budging and you're not getting what you need.
Exactly. Got to know your worth, right?
For sure. Okay, so we've covered some solid negotiation tactics, but what about persuasion?
Ah, yes. Persuasion. This script had some fun stuff on that too.
I'm ready. Hit me with your best persuasive tips.
Well, one they highlight is the rule of reciprocity. You ever notice how, like, if someone does something nice, you kind of feel obligated to do something nice back?
Oh, totally. Like if a friend helps me move, I'm definitely buying them dinner.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's reciprocity. And it can be really powerful for persuasion. The script suggests, like, doing a small favor before making your request.
So like butter them up a bit first.
In a way, yeah. Could be something small, like sharing some helpful info or just being supportive.
Okay, so it's like creating a sense of, I owe you one.
Yeah, exactly. People naturally want to return favors.
Makes sense. What else?
Another technique they talk about is appealing to emotions.
Ooh, interesting. Because logic doesn't always win the day, right?
Nope. Humans are emotional creatures.
Yeah.
And this script really emphasized storytelling as a way to connect on that level.
Oh, I love that. A good story can really change people's minds.
For sure. But it's got to be authentic. You know, the script warns against, like, being manipulative.
Right, don't want to guilt trip anyone.
Exactly. It's about sharing genuine stories that resonate with people.
So, like, instead of just stating facts, weave them into a compelling narrative.
Exactly. It's way more impactful. They even gave an example about creating urgency.
Ooh, like those limited time offer things.
Yeah, like this discount ends Friday, so act fast.
Oh, I fall for those all the time.
It's effective, creates that fear of missing out.
Totally. Speaking of effective, what about social proof? This script mentioned that too, right?
They did. Social proof is all about, like, showing that other people are already doing what you want them to do.
Oh, right, like online reviews. If something has tons of 5-star reviews, I'm way more likely to buy it.
Exactly. We look to others to guide our decisions, especially when we're unsure.
So how can we use that for persuasion?
Well, the script suggests showcasing testimonials, positive reviews, anything that shows others have benefited.
It's like saying, hey, everyone else loves this. You will too.
Exactly. It taps into that desire to fit in.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got some powerful persuasive techniques here, but I'm guessing it's not all about the tricks.
Definitely not. The script also emphasizes, like, staying calm and confident.
Right, because if you seem nervous or unsure, people pick up on that.
Absolutely. It's about believing in what you're saying.
I love that. So much of this comes down to just being genuine.
Yeah, and a big part of that is active listening.
Ah, so it's not just about talking AT people, it's about understanding them.
Right. The script talks about, like, paraphrasing to confirm you understand, asking clarifying questions.
Shows you're actually engaged, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly. And one final point they made, which I think is important, following up afterwards.
Even if you don't reach an agreement right away.
Yep. Just a quick email summarizing, thanking them for their time.
Keeps the door open. I like it. This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It really has. Who knew an English language learning script could be so insightful?
Seriously, we've covered so much.
Lots of practical stuff in there.
And our listener wanted to become a master negotiator, so I think we're giving them the tip.
For sure. The script had a great point about practice, too.
Right. It's one thing to know the techniques, but gotta actually use them.
Yeah. They even suggest role-playing with a friend.
Get some reps in.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So for our listener who's eager to put all this into action, what's the biggest takeaway?
I'd say it's to approach negotiation and persuasion strategically. It's not about being slick or manipulative. It's about understanding the psychology.
And practicing, practicing, practicing.
Exactly. So to our listener, now that you have these tools, think about it. What situation are you going to use them in first? How are you going to tailor them to your goals?
Such a good question. We want to hear all about it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning and keep leveling up.
Yeah, and they had a good point at the end, too, about practice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Practice is key.
Right. It's one thing to, know about these techniques, but you got to actually use them.
Totally. It's like anything else,
Yeah.
The more you do it, the better you get.
Exactly. And this script even suggests, role-playing.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like practice with a friend or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you can get comfortable with the techniques before you use them in a real situation.
Smart. Okay, so for our listener who's, ready to become a negotiation superstar, what's the most important thing they should remember from all this?
That's a good question. I think the key takeaway is that negotiation and persuasion, they're skills.
Yeah, not just like some magic tricks.
Right. It's not about manipulating people. It's about understanding, the psychology behind it all.
And preparation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Preparation is huge.
Knowing your stuff, knowing the other person, knowing what you want.
Exactly. And then, of course, practice, practice, practice.
Can't forget the practice. All right, so to our awesome listener out there, you wanted to know all about negotiation and persuasion. And I think we delivered.
I hope so. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. And honestly, I learned a ton myself.
Me too. Always good to, refresh those skills, right?
Absolutely. So, listener, now that you have all these tools in your toolbox, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah. What situation are you going to try them out in first? How are you going to make them work for you?
Ooh, that's a challenge. Let us know how it goes, okay? Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.